comes to filtering the image, it's situations like this that gets my heart pumping a little faster, and I really enjoy it. This is perfect lighting and weather conditions for using filters. You can really bring out that mood. Boy, I tell you, this is just amazing here. Good morning, John Gregor from Cold Snap Photography with some more tips and tutorials. Today I'm going to be talking about the NiSi filters system. In particular, the V7 filter holder, which is their brand new filter holder. About a year ago, I switched to NiSi system for filtering. And you know, one of the big questions I get from a lot of people is, why filter? I can do all that in the computer. Why would I do it in camera? And that's a valid question. And I would say the answer to that has to do with you and your relationship to photography. For me, going out and doing the act of photography is every bit as important as what the final result is. It is a very enjoyable time for me to be out in the field working. And I love being out in the field working, and I love fiddling with my equipment. So the filters gives me a chance to kind of fiddle a little more with the equipment. It comes down to that. Setting aside why we would want to use a filter system, let's move on with what makes the best filter system and why I like the NiSi V7 so much. So first of all, when it comes to a filter system holder, that it incorporates using what are called drop-in or square filters, square or rectangular filters, in a holder system that goes on the front of the lens. And this system is comprised of two primary pieces: the piece that goes onto the lens and then the piece that holds the filters. So let's take a look at how we set that up. So here I have the holder that goes onto the lens, and I have a step-up ring that I've placed on there, and I simply screw that onto the front of the lens. Then I take the piece that actually holds the filters, and the way this one works is you hook it on one side, and then you just pull this little lever back and it clips into place. You take your thumb screw and tighten it down, and now it won't come off. It's secure and it's on there. Next has to do with what is, I think, the genius of this system. One of the challenges with any drop-in filter system is, how do you handle a polarizer? The polarizer typically has to go behind the filter holder, and if you turn the polarizer, you're going to turn your filter holder. Or if you incorporate it into here, it can be tough to get on and off. This is the beauty of this system. This is their polarizer. And if you look closely, there are some white marks on there. You line those white marks up with, I've got to turn this so I can see, with the white mark that's right here, and you just simply drop it in. It's a bayonet mount system. It is genius. Whoever came up with this has a stroke of genius. One of the things with working with filters is you're working under light conditions that are changing rapidly, and you want to be able to respond to that. Having a polarizer that drops in and out that quickly, if I want to get rid of it, I just take it, and all I have to do is hold the little system that holds it in place back here and grab it, turn it, and it drops right out. Moving on with a couple other things that I like about the NiSi system. I love their little pouch and their carrying pouch for the filters. One of the things that people tell me is they say, well, you know, I just don't think of using my filters. Well, what I tell them is, as soon as you get to the location where you're going, the first choice you're going to make is, what lenses am I going to put on the camera to capture the scene? And the second thing that you should do is put the filter holder on that lens. If you have the filter holder on that lens and you have the filters with you, you'll use them. So this kit is really nice. It comes with a nice long strap. I sling it over my shoulder, carry it with me whenever I go out into the field. It has a nice dividing system to hold the filters in place. It has smaller ones for the square filters that look like this, and you can take those out, which, by the way, if you're using a square filter, this is a straight neutral density, they go in the first slot closest to the camera lens. And the reason for that is because that they're lined with a little foam sealant around the edge, which keeps stray light out. So they should go into the very first slot. Then you have room for other filters, which would be, generally speaking, your graduated neutral density filters that look something like this, and you would just take those out and drop those in place. One of the things that I see that beginners have problems with is when they put these graduated neutral densities in, they put them too far into the scene. They slam them way down into the filter holder, because when they're looking at the back of the camera, they can't see any difference unless they get it way in there, and they're getting into the heaviest part of the gradient. You should take note where that transition is and put it into the lens area relative to where you have the horizon line. If you have a 2/3 sky, you will put it in a little bit further. If you have a 1/3 sky, you're going to put it in considerably less. So you don't want to put it in too far, because then you start filtering areas in the scene that you don't want to filter. So make sure that you keep these things back in the upper part, and you might not use all of it. This is a 5-stop neutral density, graduated neutral density, but I may only use maybe 2 to 3 stops of it, depending on how far in I go into the gradation. If you need more graduated neutral density, if you need more filtration to the top of the lens, you just grab a second graduated neutral density filter and you put that into the next slot that goes in the very front. What I typically do when I am adding 2 or more filters is I will feather them back just a little bit. I use about a 1/4 inch here that I feather back. And the reason for that is that I don't want the transition to be too abrupt if they were both level and together. I like to make it gradual, so I'll feather that back just a little bit. Those are some tips on how to use a filtration system. Let's look at some results that we can get in playing with these filters, because they can be a lot of fun to play with out in the field. Sometimes it just likes to tease you.